Hey everyone, Teletubbies here. Today I want to talk about we measure the earth with our bodies by sharing wings and llama. The book tells the story of Lamo and her sister Tenji and their mother, who live in a small village in Tibet in 1959 when China invaded. They used to be called the People's Liberation Army, but we know them as the Gyami, a people from the lowlands to the east. They came to her village to capture the previous one, but thanks to Lamo's mother's prophecy and the villagers' effort, the previous one managed to escape. The Gyami, knowing this, started to shoot randomly at the gathering villagers. The rest they captured and become hostage in their own home. Will you try to escape again? The interrogator asked. No, the people replied. Then they repeated the lines they were instructed to speak. This is the most wonderful country in the world and you are our benevolent liberators. So one day, again with the help of Lamo's mother, what is left of the village escapes, leaving their home and everything that are familiar and dear to them. They went to the north, living on caves, bringing bare necessities. During this journey, they found the nameless saint statue, a statue that is said to disappear and reappear each time people need it. Lamo and Tengki will also lose their father and mother during this journey, so they had to leave their dead parents on a trail they'll never cross again. My mother was not just an idea, she was made of a body, and a body is not simple or plain. It has its own will, its own mysteries. When it gives up, no song, no prayer can bring it back. Still, the group go on until 2 years later they arrive at a refugee camp in Nepal in 1961. They had a lot of difficulties living at the refugee camp where they live among rats and lice. But Lamo is now the oldest person in the family, even as a girl. So she took care of Tenki, her small sister. Reaching out my hand in the dark again, I hold my sister's wrist. This wrist, this small meeting of bone and skin, it is made of our mother and father, their bones, their skin. When I hold my sister's wrist, I hold the echoes of their wrist. My hand travels up Tenki's cool, damp arm, her flesh filling my palm and fingers. This too is theirs. Although I no longer have their faces at any time, I can squeeze this arm. I can kiss these cheeks, I can smell this hair, and by caring for my sister, I can keep caring for my parents. No force, no person can take this from me. It is as simple as that. Lamo's story will go on in the refugee camp. Lamo meeting Sampal, then the death of few people on the camp due to difficulties of living there. And then, as Lamo and Tengki was about to get separated, Lamo got her mother's illness, and then the story jumped to 2012. The story jumped to 2012 Canada, where we will follow Dolma, Lamo's daughter who was now living in Canada with her aunt Tenki. Still a wanderer with no place to belong even after decades. Some triumphantly call this place Little Tibet, but to me, this place is the camp built anew, a copy of home, another temporary stop in an endless journey. In Canada, Dolma will find the nameless statue again, and if she were to get it back to Tibet where it belonged, she might have to risk her livelihood there. The story then goes back and forth between the past and the present following Lamo, Dolma, Tenki, and Sample. While finding out how the statue got from Tibet to Canada, it tackles different topics of what it means to be a daughter, to be a sister, to be a lover, and to find yourself. An individual that have to face your own decision and your own responsibility. The book treats their stories so well, and you can see how from generation to generation everything move and change and shape each other in some shape or form. Go and live, little sister, and I will too. The things you want for yourself, pursue them without hesitation, without self-doubt. Let no one, no force hold you back. For this freedom, our parents laid their bodies on the mountain paths. The book is a historical fiction with a lot of magical realism elements that are used really well. The magical realism aspect combined with the historical aspect of the story makes it feel much more culturally rich. It tackles heritage in so many aspects while also putting context into the problems Tibet and its people had to deal with. Losing their home invaded by China, the condition of the place they live in as a refugee and not as a refugee. Losing all their resources that they can only throw it all to a person, usually their kids. The weight of that responsibility, of that sacrifice. How they are unable to go back because the invasion is not over yet, even to this day. How hundreds of nuns burned themselves in protest, and China responded with punishing their family and friends for daring to protest. We are exiles. We are refugees. The Chinese government took our land and killed our people. 1.2 million souls. Our documents are flimsy, just laminated scraps of common paper, not embossed leather passport like yours and considered illegitimate by most nations. Please overlook our present degradation. You should have seen us before the invasion, when our country had kings and gods and an unbroken thread of history from a time before time. The closest thing to the storytelling that I can give currently for comparison is the adaptation of Pachinko. But I think this book did it even better. In Pachinko, the characters at later parts are not as strongly written as the earlier part, but in this book, every character's got the time they need to get fleshed out as much as they can. You can tell that this is an important story to the author from the care being put into every aspect of the story. It also has one of the most powerful endings I encountered this year. I don't think this book will get as much attention as Pachinko because it's not being pushed by Korean fever, which is a shame, but I hope I'm wrong and this book and this story got all the attention it deserves. I will close this video with another of its quote. I think about the story of the blind sea turtle. Imagine the whole world is covered in water. In that water, there is a circular wooden yoke. There is also a blind sea turtle swimming alone. Once every 100 years, the sea turtle pokes his head out of the water, hoping to come out in the center of that yoke. Such is the rarity of a human bird, the preciousness of this world. Do they still teach the story today? Is it not a cruel lesson to say that life, even an unhappy one, is an implausible fluke we must cherish? Blind sea turtles we are. That's about it.